The night roads of America hold more stories than any book ever written, more whispers than any town dares to admit, more shadows than any flashlight can cut through. If you have ever driven alone on a silent highway at 3 a.m., you already know the feeling. The air turns heavier. The lines on the road seem endless, and somewhere in that stillness, a thought creeps in. What if you are not alone on this highway? What if someone or something is traveling with you? Tonight, we journey into the most haunted highways in the United States, places where history, tragedy, and unexplained encounters merge into something far darker than simple ghost stories. These roads are avoided by truckers, feared by locals, and whispered about in late-night diners, because the people who claim to have seen the impossible here, they are not storytellers, they are survivors. We begin our journey across America with the chilling isolation of Route 66, a highway celebrated for freedom, but feared for the spirits that wander its forgotten desert stretches. The wind here carries voices, travelers say, and the sand hides the footsteps of people who vanished long before the road was even paved. Many who drive through the Arizona portion describe a strange figure walking along the shoulder, tall, thin, and pale, appearing only in the corner of your eye. They say if you slow down, he disappears, but if you ignore him, he sometimes appears closer. Some truckers insist he's been seen standing in the middle of the highway, unmoving, staring directly into oncoming headlights. No one knows who he is. Some call him the ghost walker. Others believe he is the spirit of an old miner left wandering the desert forever. But those who have encountered him all agree on one thing. Once you see him, the feeling doesn't leave you. Even miles after he vanishes, drivers describe the same thing, the sensation of someone sitting in the passenger seat, quietly watching. Beyond the sand and dust of Arizona, the highway cuts into New Mexico, where Route 66 reveals one of its most unsettling legends, the phantom hitchhiker of Highway 285. She appears on cold nights, wearing a white dress, standing perfectly still on the roadside. When drivers stop, she asks for a ride to the next town, her voice soft and trembling, as if she has been walking for hours. But here's the chilling part. She never makes it to the destination. Witnesses say she slowly fades away in the seat beside them, leaving only the imprint of her weight on the car cushion. Some drivers report a sudden drop in temperature moments before she disappears. Others say she leaves behind the faint scent of roses or the echo of a whispered "thank you" before the air falls silent again. Locals claim she was a young woman killed in a car crash in the 1950s, but no record of her death exists. No name, no police report, no grave. Only the endless, repeating moment of a spirit trying to complete a journey she never finished in life. From New Mexico, our journey heads toward Colorado, where Highway 666, renamed Highway 491, earned the terrifying nickname the Devil's Highway long before the number was changed. Drivers here don't just talk about ghosts, they talk about something far more aggressive. Many describe phantom trucks speeding out of nowhere, headlights blindingly bright, engines roaring, pushing cars dangerously off the road before vanishing without a trace. Others speak about shadow creatures running on all fours at incredible speeds, keeping pace with moving vehicles, sometimes slamming into doors or windows before disappearing into the darkness. The Navajo Nation, whose land the highway crosses, has its own explanation. They believe skinwalkers roam these lands, shape-shifting beings from ancient stories capable of taking the form of animals or monstrous human-like creatures. Whether legend or truth, the number of unexplained accidents here remained so high that eventually the government changed the name. But even after the number disappeared, the stories never did. Truckers still refuse to drive through certain stretches at night, and many who break down on the Devil's Highway say they feel watched, as if something just out of sight is waiting for them to be alone. As we head eastward, the landscape shifts from desert to forest, from open emptiness to winding roads cloaked in darkness. In West Virginia, the infamously haunted Route 29 tells a far more human story, one rooted in fear, tragedy, and an unsolved mystery that spans decades. During the 1990s, a series of disturbing incidents occurred along this isolated stretch. Drivers reported a woman in distress, waving her arms, begging for help, but when they stopped, she was gone. Moments later, a chilling realization would hit them. They had stopped at the exact location where multiple victims of a serial killer were later discovered. After the killer was caught, the sightings did not stop. People continued to report the same woman, the same desperate expression, the same vanishing act. Some believe she is the spirit of one of the victims. Others think she is a warning, a spectral echo replaying the moment she tried to escape. And to this day, late-night travelers say the hardest part of Route 29 isn't seeing her. It's the silence that follows, the heavy feeling that something unseen is still standing by the road, watching you drive away. Leaving the forest shadows of West Virginia behind, we travel south toward Louisiana, where Highway 167 carries one of the strangest paranormal encounters ever documented, one that blurs the line between ghosts and time itself. In the 1960s, a man named Joe Shelton claimed he witnessed something extraordinary. As he drove down Highway 167 with a friend, they spotted an old, broken-down truck from the 1920s on the side of the road. The driver was dressed in outdated clothing, confused and frantically waving for help. Joe pulled over. But as he approached the man, the truck, the driver, and everything around them began to fade like smoke in the wind. Seconds later, the space was empty. Shocked, Joe wrote down the details immediately. Years later, researchers determined that a nearly identical truck had crashed at that exact location more than 30 years before Joe was even born. Many people have since reported similar encounters on that same stretch. Cars from another era, figures dressed in clothing that doesn't belong to this time, and brief moments where the road itself seems to shift into the past before snapping back into reality. Some call it a glitch, others call it a haunting. But whatever it is, Highway 167 has become one of the few roads in America where drivers believe they are witnessing actual moments frozen in time. Our journey continues west to California, where the deadly curves of Highway 152, particularly the stretch known as Blood Alley, hold decades of dark stories. This narrow, winding road has claimed countless lives due to dangerous turns and speeding cars, but even more disturbing are the reports from drivers who say they see vehicles from the opposite lane veer into their path, only to vanish before impact. Some describe a woman wearing a red dress, walking along the foggy roadside, appearing suddenly in headlights before disappearing into the night. A few witnesses insist she tries to flag them down, as if desperate for help. Locals believe she was a mother killed in a tragic collision while trying to get medical help for her child. But others suggest something darker, pointing out that many accidents occur immediately after drivers report seeing her. Is she a warning?
or something more sinister? No one seems to agree, but the number of people who swear they've seen her continues to grow every year. And then there is Florida's Highway 98, where the ghost of the singing woman is said to haunt the marshlands. Drivers late at night report hearing a faint melody drifting through their open windows, as if carried by the humid coastal breeze. The voice is described as soft, sorrowful, almost hypnotic. Some say the song grows louder the longer you listen. Others claim the music compels them to slow down or even pull over without understanding why. When they look around, there is no one there. Locals believe the spirit belongs to a woman who drowned more than a century ago in the nearby swamps. But paranormal researchers note that the song has no lyrics, no language, and no...
The deeper we travel into America's most haunted highways, the more we realize that these roads are not just stretches of asphalt. They are places where the past refuses to stay buried, where tragedies echo long after the last witness is gone, and where travelers find themselves caught between the familiar world and the unknown. As we continue our journey, the landscape shifts again, leading us into the misty forests of the Pacific Northwest. Here, the air grows cold, the trees stand impossibly tall, and the quiet is so deep that even the sound of your own breathing becomes unsettling. This is the domain of Washington's Highway 2, a road notorious among locals and long-haul drivers for its strange, lingering presence. Some say the spirits of loggers who died here more than a century ago still walk beside the road. Others talk about a woman in a black coat who appears in the middle of the night, always on rainy evenings, always with her head lowered. Drivers who stop to help her describe the same chilling experience. She looks up slowly, revealing empty eye sockets where her eyes should be, and within seconds she vanishes, leaving the smell of wet earth behind. Many believe she lost her life in a storm-related collision decades ago. But the empty eyes? That part has no explanation, no record, no origin. And yet dozens of sightings continue, year after year. Leaving the rainy shadows of Washington behind, we head south toward Oregon's Highway 101, a breathtaking coastal road by day, but a place of unsettling mysteries by night. The crashing waves below create a natural echo chamber, making it difficult to distinguish real sounds from illusions. Travelers frequently report hearing footsteps on the gravel shoulders, even when no one is nearby. Some say they have seen ghostly sailors wandering the cliffs, their uniforms soaked, their faces pale and lifeless. The legend states that these men were crew members of ships wrecked in violent storms off the Oregon coast. Their bodies were never recovered, and their restless spirits climbed onto the highway in a desperate attempt to walk home. One of the most famous accounts comes from a retired police officer who claimed he stopped his patrol car to assist a man lying on the roadside. The man appeared injured, barely moving, but as the officer approached, the figure dissolved into mist, leaving only the scent of sea salt in the air. The officer later discovered that decades earlier, a lifeboat from a wrecked ship had washed ashore in that exact spot, its passengers presumed dead. The idea that lost sailors still search for land along Highway 101 is both fascinating and deeply chilling. Traveling farther inland, the forests grow denser as we approach Idaho's Highway 95, a narrow road with a long history of disappearances and mysterious accidents. Locals refer to it as the Highway of Shadows. Many drivers report seeing strange shapes dart across the road, figures too large to be human but too fast to identify. Others describe hearing whispers through their open windows, as if someone is calling their name from the trees. One of the eeriest stories involves a man who claimed he had followed a woman walking on the shoulder late at night. He slowed his car, rolled down his window, and asked if she needed help. She turned toward him, her face pale and emotionless, and said, "You missed the turn." Before he could respond, she vanished. Shocked and confused, he drove ahead, and within seconds realized that the road sharply curved to the right. If he hadn't slowed down, he would have driven off a cliff. Were she a guardian spirit, or a ghost replaying her final moments, trying to prevent others from sharing her fate? No one knows, but many travelers now insist that Highway 95 holds both danger and protection, wrapped in a single chilling mystery. Crossing into Nevada, the emptiness becomes overwhelming. Long stretches of road disappear into the horizon, and the silence is broken only by the sound of wind brushing against the car. Nevada's Highway 50 is called the loneliest road in America, not only because of its isolation, but because of the ghostly encounters that have terrified drivers for decades. People report seeing an old man walking slowly along the roadside with a lantern, swinging it gently back and forth. He never looks up, never reacts, never acknowledges passing vehicles. But his presence is unmistakably real to those who see him. Some truckers claim the lantern's light flickers even when there is no wind. Others say they saw him glowing faintly, like a dim candle in the darkness. A few who tried to stop and help found the lantern still swinging on its own, while the man vanished entirely. Local folklore suggests he was a miner searching for his lost son, who died in a cave-in more than a century ago. The father's body was never found, and so the belief persists that he is still searching, walking endlessly through the dark, guided by a lantern that never goes out. From the quiet deserts of Nevada, we travel east toward the immense plains of Texas, where Highway 87 carries one of the most unnerving legends of all, the phantom children of the prairie. On certain nights, drivers report seeing small figures standing beside the road, their silhouettes illuminated by moonlight. Some say they appear to be holding hands. Others describe them running across the highway, disappearing into the grass without making a sound. One of the most famous encounters involved a young couple driving late at night when they noticed a group of children playing near the road. The couple stopped, concerned for their safety, but as they approached, the children faded away, leaving behind only faint laughter carried by the wind. Researchers believe the spirits belong to the victims of a tragic school bus accident that occurred decades ago. The bus crashed on a remote dirt road that eventually became part of Highway 87. Many of the children did not survive, and to this day, drivers insist their playful voices echo across the plains. Heading north from Texas, we reach the snowy wilderness of Montana, where Highway 93 runs through treacherous mountain terrain. Here, the legend of the shadow moose terrifies even the most experienced drivers. Witnesses claim to see an enormous dark shape standing in the middle of the road, larger than any known animal, with glowing eyes that reflect like fire. When cars get close, the creature either vanishes instantly or passes through the vehicle without leaving dents, scratches, or broken glass. Some drivers describe feeling intense cold as it moves through them, as if ice is spreading across their skin from the inside. Indigenous stories from the region mention a spirit guardian of the forest, a creature that appears to warn travelers of danger. And indeed, many who reported seeing the shadow moose narrowly avoided accidents moments later, as if the spirit was trying to protect them from something ahead. Others, however, believe it is a harbinger of disaster, appearing only when danger is unavoidable.
The duality of its nature, protector or omen, adds to the mystery that makes Highway 93 one of the most unsettling roads in America. Continuing east, we cross into the Great Lakes region, where Michigan's Highway M185 circles the isolated Mackinac Island, a place already steeped in legends. At night, many visitors describe hearing the sound of horse hooves on the pavement, despite no horses being present. Others claim they have seen a ghostly figure riding a black horse along the shoreline, disappearing into the fog that rises from the water. The island has a long and haunted history, with Native American burial grounds, historic battles, and tragic shipwrecks surrounding its shores. The rider is believed by some to be the spirit of a messenger who drowned during a violent storm, but others argue he is a guardian who watches over travelers who walk the island at night. The most unsettling part of these encounters is that the hooves can be heard clearly on nights when the fog is thickest, echoing slowly at first, then growing louder, until suddenly they stop, leaving only the sound of waves crashing against the rocks. Further east in Pennsylvania, we encounter the infamous Highway 322, home to the legend of the ghost jogger. Drivers late at night report seeing a woman running along the shoulder wearing reflective gear that glows unnaturally bright. She runs at an impossible speed, keeping up with moving cars for several seconds before suddenly vanishing into thin air. Witnesses who have seen her often note a strange silence that follows, as if the world around them has paused for a moment. Some believe she was an athlete who died in a hit.
As we continue deeper into the heart of America's most haunted highways, it becomes clear that these roads are more than simple pathways connecting towns and cities. They are living corridors of memory, drenched in human emotion, tragedy, and mystery. Every mile holds a story, and every story reveals another layer of the unseen world that surrounds us. Our journey now pulls us toward one of the strangest and most disturbing stretches of road in the Midwest, Wisconsin's Highway 12. Drivers who travel this route at night often talk about a young boy standing on the side of the road, wearing outdated clothing and holding a small suitcase. He never waves, never speaks, never reacts to passing vehicles. Many say he looks lost, as if waiting for someone who never arrived. Those who stop out of concern report the same terrifying detail. The boy walks slowly toward the car, staring straight ahead, and before he reaches the door, he fades into the air like smoke, dissolving into darkness. Historians believe he may be connected to a tragedy from the early 20th century involving a family that disappeared while traveling. Their belongings were found scattered along what would become Highway 12. The child was never located. Whether his spirit still waits for help or simply replays the final moments of his life remains a mystery. Moving southwest, we enter the rugged terrain of South Dakota, where Highway 44 stretches through long, lonely plains. This road is known for an apparition locals call the Vanishing Rancher. Drivers often report seeing a man riding a horse, wearing old-fashioned frontier clothing, as if pulled straight from the late 1800s. He rides at a steady pace along the roadside, sometimes appearing just feet from passing vehicles. Witnesses say his expression is tired and solemn, his eyes fixed on something in the distance. When anyone tries to get a closer look, he simply disappears. Some reports describe the horse dissolving first, leaving the rider floating in midair for a fraction of a second before vanishing too. According to folklore, he may have been a rancher searching for his missing cattle during a violent winter storm more than a century ago. He never returned home, and his body was never found. The idea that he continues his endless search across Highway 44 adds a haunting reminder of how the past can cling to the land long after history forgets the names of those who once walked it. Our journey now bends south toward Kansas and the infamous Highway 400, a road feared by many nighttime travelers. One of the most unsettling tales from this area is the story of the hitchhiking bride. Drivers see a woman in a wedding gown walking slowly along the shoulder, her dress torn and dirty, as if she has been wandering for miles. Some say she carries flowers, wilted and colorless. Others claim she clasps her hands tightly to her chest as though holding something precious. When drivers stop, she approaches the car, opens her mouth as if to speak, but no sound comes out. Before anyone can react, she vanishes. The legend suggests she died in a tragic accident on her wedding night while traveling to her reception. Many believe she now searches endlessly for the celebration she never reached, forever trapped between joy and heartbreak. Truckers often warn each other about her, especially on foggy evenings when she is said to appear most frequently. From Kansas, we head into Missouri, where the dense forests surrounding Highway 19 create the perfect atmosphere for one of the state's most chilling legends. Travelers here report seeing shadowy figures standing among the trees, watching silently as cars pass by. Some describe the sensation of being stared at, even with their windows closed and the road completely empty. Others have seen figures dart across the highway in impossible silence, moving too quickly and too smoothly to be human. The most disturbing stories involve people who stop to rest or stretch their legs. They claim that the moment they step out of their car, the atmosphere changes instantly. The forest becomes quiet, unnaturally quiet, and shadows appear to shift on their own. Several witnesses describe hearing whispers right behind them, only to turn and see nothing. Native folklore suggests these figures could be remnants of ancient spirits tied to the land, guardians or watchers who exist in a realm parallel to our own. Whether protective or hostile is something no one can say for sure. Crossing east into Illinois, we find ourselves on Route 13, where reports of the phantom headlights terrified drivers year after year. Travelers late at night describe a pair of blinding headlights approaching rapidly from behind, growing closer and closer as if a vehicle is speeding dangerously fast. The lights get so close that drivers brace for impact, only for them to suddenly vanish at the last possible second. Those who have experienced it say the road becomes pitch black afterwards, as if something drained the light from the world for a moment. Several theories surround this phenomenon. Some claim it's the ghost of a reckless driver who died in a high-speed collision decades ago. Others believe the lights belong to a phantom vehicle forever trapped in its final moment, reliving the crash in an endless loop. A few locals even suggest that the lights are not from a car at all, but from something far older and far more mysterious, something that uses the appearance of headlights as a way to observe those who pass through. Traveling northeast, we move into Indiana's Highway 37, where the legend of the restless miner casts a chilling presence over the region. Witnesses often report seeing a man covered in dust and dirt walking toward vehicles with a limp, calling out for help. His voice, when heard, is described as distant and echo-like, as if coming from inside a cave. When drivers pull over, he approaches slowly, but before he reaches the window, he disappears completely. The story goes that he was a miner who died in a tunnel collapse early in the 1900s. His body was never recovered, and some believe his spirit still seeks rescue, desperately trying to reach anyone who might hear him.
What makes this legend especially disturbing is that drivers often feel the ground vibrate slightly after he vanishes, as if something underground is shifting or calling out in response. Continuing toward the Appalachian region, we enter Kentucky's Erie Highway 90. This road is known for the haunting phenomenon locals call the Pale Woman. She appears suddenly on the roadside, her skin white as bone, her hair long and tangled. Her face is impossible to see clearly, as if constantly blurred by a thin veil of mist. Travelers who have seen her describe an overwhelming sense of dread, an instinctive feeling that something terrible is about to happen. Some say she lifts her hand slowly, pointing toward the woods, urging drivers to follow. Others claim she tries to step in front of cars, forcing them to swerve. Folklore ties her to a tragedy involving a woman who went missing centuries ago. The woods near Highway 90 are said to hold the remnants of forgotten settlements, and some believe her spirit is a remnant of those who lived and died there long before the highway existed. Heading farther north, we enter Virginia, home to some of the most remote and haunting landscapes in the country. Route 9 cuts through thick forests and mountains, and for years travelers have reported sightings of a mysterious woman dressed in black standing alone near the sharp curves. Many say she appears only during heavy rainfall or thunderstorms. When cars approach, she turns her head slowly, revealing a sorrowful expression, before fading into the storm. Some drivers claim she lifts her hand as if trying to stop them, warning them of danger ahead. This has led many to believe she might be the spirit of someone who died on one of these treacherous curves, attempting to prevent others from facing the same fate. Others think she is simply reliving her final moments, forever caught in the storm that took her life. Our journey now extends to Maryland, where Route 40 carries a legend that has terrified locals for decades. Drivers report seeing a ghostly figure bicycling along the road, moving smoothly even when there is no light or sound. He wears old-fashioned clothing, his face covered by shadows. When cars get too close, he suddenly veers off into the woods and disappears, despite there being no trail or path for him to enter. Some say he was a young man who died in a tragic accident while cycling home late at night. But others believe the figure is older than that, possibly connected to a much earlier time when the road was part of a colonial trade route. Whatever the truth, his silent presence continues to send chills through anyone who encounters him. The journey through America's haunted highways continues, taking us further into places where darkness, history, and the unexplained converge. As the night falls, the empty roads become stages for stories that have been whispered for generations, stories that refuse to stay buried. Heading west, we encounter Arizona's Highway 66, a stretch of road that still carries the spirit of the Old West. Travelers report seeing phantom stagecoaches rolling along at dusk, their wheels creaking, lanterns glowing faintly in the twilight. Ghostly figures dressed in 19th century attire sit inside, motionless, staring straight ahead. Some who have stopped to investigate swear they could hear muffled conversations, the clinking of silver coins, and the distant sound of horses' hooves, though no living horse has passed by. Locals speak of a stagecoach robbery that ended in bloodshed decades ago, leaving several men dead along this very route. The legends say the stagecoach and its passengers replay the final moments of that fateful night endlessly, haunting anyone who dares drive past after dark. From the deserts of Arizona, the road takes us north to Utah's Highway 12, a scenic byway by day, but a spine-chilling haunt after sunset. Drivers often describe sudden fog rolling in from nowhere, dense and heavy, obscuring the road ahead. Within the fog, some report seeing figures in pioneer clothing walking along the roadside, carrying tools or bundles of belongings.
They vanish when approached, leaving only the crunch of gravel under invisible feet. One particular tale speaks of a man with no face, standing near a bend, holding a lantern that flickers even in the absence of wind. Travelers who see him often feel a cold rush of air, a sense of being watched, and occasionally hear whispers calling their names. Historians suggest these apparitions might be settlers lost during harsh winters in the 1800s, eternally wandering the land they once tried to tame. Continuing east, we reach the haunting stretches of Ohio's Highway 666, often referred to by locals as the Devil's Strip. Though the highway was renumbered decades ago, the stories remain. Motorists frequently report hearing screams echoing across the fields, untraceable and bone-chilling. Some see a black sedan driving beside them at impossible speeds, only for it to vanish when they attempt to pass or look closer. Legends link the hauntings to a series of tragic accidents in the 1930s, where travelers mysteriously disappeared, their cars found abandoned with no trace of the occupants. Some accounts describe seeing shadowy figures standing in the middle of the road, only to dissolve into thin air as cars approach. The air feels heavier here at night, and many insist that something unseen has claimed a part of the highway as its own domain. Crossing into Tennessee, Highway 129, known as the Tail of the Dragon, is famous for its curves and scenic beauty, but also for a series of ghostly motorcyclists. Riders report glimpses of spectral bikers racing alongside them, engines roaring without a sound, headlights flickering, yet leaving no track or tire marks. Some say these spirits are those who lost their lives navigating the perilous curves, doomed to repeat their final ride. Witnesses claim that the phantom bikers often appear during misty mornings, darting out from the fog, only to vanish instantly when approached. One motorcyclist recounted narrowly avoiding a collision only to realize that the phantom had guided him safely around a hidden drop, leaving a lingering chill in his spine and a sense of both terror and awe. Further north, in New York State, the legends of Route 211 near the Shawangunk Mountains have persisted for decades. Drivers speak of spectral travelers who walk along the shoulders, appearing to hitchhike late at night. They are always silent, dressed in outdated clothing, their eyes hollow and distant. Some stories tell of entire vehicles disappearing from the road, with occupants waking hours later, miles away, with no memory of how they arrived. Others describe hearing old-time music, fiddles and accordions playing softly from the trees, only to vanish when approached. Historians note that Route 211 follows paths used by early settlers, and some suggest the spirits are echoes of people who met untimely deaths during harsh winters or conflicts along the way. Continuing east, we reach the haunting stretches of Ohio's Highway 666, often referred to by locals as the Devil's Strip. Though the highway was renumbered decades ago, the stories remain. Motorists frequently report hearing screams echoing across the fields, untraceable and bone-chilling. Some see a black sedan driving beside them at impossible speeds, only for it to vanish when they attempt to pass or look closer. Legends link the hauntings to a series of tragic accidents in the 1930s, where travelers mysteriously disappeared, their cars found abandoned with no trace of the occupants. Some accounts describe seeing shadowy figures standing in the middle of the road, only to dissolve into thin air as cars approach. The air feels heavier here at night, and many insist that something unseen has claimed a part of the highway as its own domain. Crossing into Tennessee, Highway 129, known as the Tail of the Dragon, is famous for its curves and scenic beauty, but also for a series of ghostly motorcyclists. Riders report glimpses of spectral bikers racing alongside them, engines roaring without a sound, headlights flickering, yet leaving no track or tire marks.
Some say these spirits are those who lost their lives navigating the perilous curves, doomed to repeat their final ride. Witnesses claim that the phantom bikers often appear during misty mornings, darting out from the fog, only to vanish instantly when approached. One motorcyclist recounted narrowly avoiding a collision only to realize that the phantom had guided him safely around a hidden drop, leaving a lingering chill in his spine and a sense of both terror and awe. Further north, in New York State, the legends of Route 211 near the Shawangunk Mountains have persisted for decades. Drivers speak of spectral travelers who walk along the shoulders, appearing to hitchhike late at night. They are always silent, dressed in outdated clothing, their eyes hollow and distant. Some stories tell of entire vehicles disappearing from the road, with occupants waking hours later, miles away, with no memory of how they arrived. Others describe hearing old-time music, fiddles and accordions playing softly from the trees, only to vanish when approached. Historians note that Route 211 follows paths used by early settlers, and some suggest the spirits are echoes of people who met untimely deaths during harsh winters or conflicts along the way. Continuing east, we reach the haunting stretches of Ohio's Highway 666, often referred to by locals as the Devil's Strip. Though the highway was renumbered decades ago, the stories remain. Motorists frequently report hearing screams echoing across the fields, untraceable and bone-chilling. Some see a black sedan driving beside them at impossible speeds, only for it to vanish when they attempt to pass or look closer. Legends link the hauntings to a series of tragic accidents in the 1930s, where travelers mysteriously disappeared, their cars found abandoned with no trace of the occupants. Some accounts describe seeing shadowy figures standing in the middle of the road, only to dissolve into thin air as cars approach. The air feels heavier here at night, and many insist that something unseen has claimed a part of the highway as its own domain. Crossing into Tennessee, Highway 129, known as the Tail of the Dragon, is famous for its curves and scenic beauty, but also for a series of ghostly motorcyclists. Riders report glimpses of spectral bikers racing alongside them, engines roaring without a sound, headlights flickering, yet leaving no track or tire marks. Some say these spirits are those who lost their lives navigating the perilous curves, doomed to repeat their final ride. Witnesses claim that the phantom bikers often appear during misty mornings, darting out from the fog, only to vanish instantly when approached. One motorcyclist recounted narrowly avoiding a collision only to realize that the phantom had guided him safely around a hidden drop, leaving a lingering chill in his spine and a sense of both terror and awe. Further north, in New York State, the legends of Route 211 near the Shawangunk Mountains have persisted for decades. Drivers speak of spectral travelers who walk along the shoulders, appearing to hitchhike late at night. They are always silent, dressed in outdated clothing, their eyes hollow and distant. Some stories tell of entire vehicles disappearing from the road, with occupants waking hours later, miles away, with no memory of how they arrived. Others describe hearing old-time music, fiddles and accordions playing softly from the trees, only to vanish when approached. Historians, as our journey through the most haunted highways in America continues, we venture into the shadowed corners of the Midwest and Northeast, where history and tragedy intertwine to create some of the most chilling experiences for travelers. Heading into Pennsylvania, Route 611 carries stories that have been passed down for generations. Drivers often report seeing shadowy figures standing in the middle of the road at night, only to vanish when approached. Some describe hearing the distant sound of horse-drawn carriages and wagons, though the traffic of the modern era shows no sign of such vehicles.
Locals recount tales of travelers who disappeared in the 1800s, their bodies never found, leaving behind only rumors and whispered warnings for those who travel the road after dark. The eerie atmosphere is heightened by the surrounding dense forests whose skeletal branches creak in the wind, sounding almost like voices calling from beyond. Moving south into North Carolina, U.S. Highway 64 reveals a series of ghostly hitchhikers who have become part of local legend. Drivers tell of a man or woman appearing suddenly on the roadside, dressed in outdated clothing, sometimes soaked from rain despite clear skies. When approached, the hitchhiker enters the car silently, only to vanish when the vehicle passes a certain point. Some report that objects in the car, bags, coats, or even a briefcase, are mysteriously left behind after the apparition disappears. Folklore suggests these spirits may have been victims of fatal accidents along this stretch of highway, forever seeking a ride that never ends. The stories are consistent enough that locals warn travelers not to stop, yet the highway continues to lure the curious with its strange and tragic energy. As we enter the heart of the Ozarks in Arkansas, Highway 23, known as the Pig Trail, has long been associated with strange and inexplicable occurrences. Drivers at night often speak of figures crossing the road, seemingly solid, but vanishing moments later. Some have described a fog that descends suddenly, obscuring the road and making it impossible to see beyond a few feet. Within this fog, lights appear, sometimes like lanterns, sometimes like glowing eyes, but no one is ever visible when drivers slow down. One tale tells of a man in Civil War attire who appears to be searching for something, walking along the roadside with no sound but the soft crunch of gravel under his feet. Those who attempt to follow him report that he disappears into the mist, leaving them disoriented and terrified. Locals whisper that the spirits of soldiers who died in the region still roam the land, eternally bound to the places where they met their end. Traveling northeast, we arrive in Massachusetts, where Route 6A, the old King's Highway, carries centuries of history and spectral sightings. Drivers frequently describe encountering colonial-era figures walking along the shoulder, often looking distressed or confused. Some witnesses have reported ghostly carriages passing silently in the night, pulled by horses whose hooves make no sound on the pavement. The area is dotted with old inns, cemeteries, and abandoned settlements, and it is said that the spirits of those who died tragically or suddenly linger near the places they once inhabited. There are even stories of apparitions warning travelers of upcoming hazards, only to disappear before the driver can comprehend what just occurred. The combination of history, isolation, and the lingering memory of past lives creates an atmosphere that many describe as oppressive, yet strangely magnetic. Heading west toward Illinois and Missouri, we encounter Illinois Route 66, the famous stretch of the old Mother Road. By day, it is a scenic reminder of America's golden age of road travel, but by night, it becomes a corridor of ghostly encounters. Drivers often report hearing the rumble of cars that aren't there, seeing shadowy vehicles in their rearview mirrors, or passing gas stations with flickering lights where no living attendant is present. One persistent legend involves a ghostly hitchhiker known as the Lady in Black, who appears wearing a funeral dress, silently asking for a ride. Those who stop often report a sudden coldness in the vehicle, a sense of being watched, and when they glance back, the hitchhiker is gone. Historians suggest these hauntings are linked to the highway's long history of accidents and disappearances during the early days of motor travel. Traveling south to Georgia, the roads around Highway 441 are filled with stories of the White Lady. Locals describe a woman dressed in white who appears near bridges and curves, her face pale and blurred, her expression mournful. Some drivers claim she points toward the trees as if signaling danger, while others report she steps directly onto the road, vanishing the moment a car brakes to avoid her.
One persistent tale describes a bride who fell from a bridge decades ago. Her body never recovered, leaving her spirit to roam the area endlessly. The highway has a reputation among truckers and locals alike as a place to drive cautiously at night, not just because of the curves, but because of the supernatural presence that has been reported for generations. In Ohio, Route 40 stretches across rural terrain where travelers often encounter the phantom wagon. Witnesses describe seeing a horse-drawn wagon carrying shadowy figures that disappear the moment they get close. The apparitions appear mostly at dusk or during heavy fog, and some drivers report feeling their vehicles suddenly slow or shudder as though unseen forces are present. Folklore ties these events to settlers who died in accidents while transporting goods along the route in the 1800s. Many locals treat the highway with a combination of reverence and fear, warning newcomers of strange phenomena that can't be explained by science or reason. Venturing into New Jersey, the Pine Barrens conceal legends of the headless motorist along Route 70. Travelers recount spotting a figure in an old-fashioned car, driving slowly toward them. When they attempt to pass, the vehicle vanishes. Some claim the driver was headless, their body clothed in ragged garments, staring straight ahead with lifeless eyes. This apparition is said to be tied to a fatal accident during the early automobile era, and its repeated sightings suggest a spirit trapped in a loop, replaying its final moments for anyone who crosses its path. Historians suggest these hauntings are linked to the highway's long history of accidents and disappearances during the early days of motor travel. Finally, in the Deep South, Alabama's Highway 280 is known for the phantom truck. Long-haul drivers and locals alike report seeing an enormous truck, completely black, headlights glowing, appearing in their mirrors at impossible speeds. The truck is silent, moves unnaturally fast, and disappears suddenly, leaving behind only a lingering chill and the smell of burning rubber. Legends suggest the truck was involved in a massive accident decades ago, claiming the lives of an entire crew, and its ghost now continues the doomed route it could never complete. Drivers tell of inexplicable tire marks appearing in the middle of the road, tracks that lead nowhere and vanish into thin air, evidence that something otherworldly still haunts this stretch of asphalt.
As the journey through America's most haunted highways draws toward its conclusion, we find ourselves reflecting on the stories we've uncovered and the lingering presence of the unknown that stretches across this vast country. Our final path takes us to the Pacific Northwest, where Oregon's Highway 101 winds along jagged cliffs and dense forests. Here, drivers have reported seeing ghostly fishermen along the shore, casting invisible lines into the water, their faces obscured by fog and shadow. Some say the apparitions appear only when the fog is thickest, silently moving along the cliffs or standing at the water's edge, watching as travelers pass. Others describe hearing the faint splash of unseen fish being caught, and the distant echo of waves crashing in unnatural rhythm. Locals believe these spirits are fishermen lost to storms at sea, their souls tied to the coastline, unable to leave the place where their lives were claimed by water and wind. From Oregon, we travel inland to Washington's Highway 20, crossing the Cascades. The mountains and valleys create an eerie echo that amplifies every sound, and travelers report strange voices calling out from the forests at night. Some have seen figures in pioneer garb trudging along the roadside, while others speak of shadowy animals, deer, wolves, and even bears that vanish when approached. One persistent legend tells of a stagecoach that disappeared during a snowstorm in the 1800s, with all occupants lost. Witnesses claim to see its faint outline at night, wheels spinning slowly, passengers frozen in time, their cries muffled but present. The stories of Highway 20 remind travelers that the spirits of those who came before linger in the very landscapes we often take for granted, watching, waiting, and sometimes warning. Heading south toward California once more, we traverse the desolate stretches of Route 395, a road flanked by arid deserts and jagged peaks. Drivers report seeing ghostly miners and prospectors wandering along the roadside, carrying pickaxes, lanterns, and sacks of ore that no one can see clearly. Many claim the figures vanish when approached, leaving only footprints in the dust that are gone by the time they glance back. Local folklore suggests these are spirits of those who died chasing fortune, trapped forever in the land they tried to tame. Others have reported seeing phantom trains on abandoned tracks, lights flickering in the distance with no sound of an engine, as if the past itself is replaying in loops for anyone willing or unlucky enough to witness it. Crossing into Nevada, Highway 50, known as the loneliest road in America, presents perhaps one of the most psychologically haunting experiences. Travelers speak of feeling watched, hearing footsteps on empty roads, and seeing shadowy figures on the horizon that disappear when approached. Many describe phantom cars or trucks that appear suddenly, following them closely, only to vanish without a trace. Legends tie these sightings to miners, travelers, and settlers who disappeared in the unforgiving desert landscape, their souls forever bound to the stretches of asphalt where their lives ended abruptly. Some who attempt to camp overnight along the road report strange whispers, unexplained lights, and the sensation of unseen presences moving among them. As we make our way eastward once more, Pennsylvania's Route 222 offers one of the chilling conclusions to our journey. Known for sudden apparitions, spectral hitchhikers, and vehicles that appear and vanish inexplicably, the highway is a microcosm of America's haunted roadways. Some travelers report seeing entire ghost towns, buildings, and street lamps appearing only to vanish moments later. Others feel the pull of the past, a sense of history layered upon the asphalt itself, pressing against the living. Here, every mile traveled is a reminder that the roads of America are more than just concrete and asphalt. They are repositories of memory, tragedy, and perhaps even a lingering consciousness that refuses to fade. Finally, we return to the realization that America's haunted highways are not simply haunted by ghosts, but by the stories we leave behind. Every accident, disappearance, act of kindness, or tragedy embeds itself into the land, creating a tapestry of memory and energy that transcends time. The highways we drive, often taken for granted, are veins through which the spirit of the past continues to flow. They remind us of the fragility of life, the permanence of memory, and the mysteries that surround us every day. Whether it's a lost child fading into the night, a phantom vehicle racing endlessly, or a figure standing silently by the roadside, these roads invite us to consider what lies beyond the veil of the visible world. As dawn breaks over the horizon, the haunted highways settle into silence once more. The fog lifts, the shadows retreat, and the apparitions vanish, leaving behind only the echo of their stories. Yet for those who travel these roads at night, who feel the chill of the wind that carries voices from another time, the memories linger. Perhaps it is not just the highways that are haunted, but all of us who traverse them, aware that the past is never truly gone and the spirits of America's roads remain, watching, waiting, and reminding us that some journeys are meant to be more than just miles. They are encounters with the unseen, the mysterious, and the eternal.